Florida Congresswoman on the House Homeland Security Committee, Congresswoman Cammack. Congresswoman, it's always fantastic to see you. And Joe Biden responding to the bipartisan package or agreement on principle anyway on gun restrictions, saying it doesn't do all that needs to be done, but it's a step in the right direction. Even though there's no legislation yet, what's your take on this agreement in principle?
Well, Chris, I agree with everything that you've been saying here in your preamble. And the thing that I have learned being a freshman congresswoman up here is that you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. This so-called bipartisan effort coming out of the Senate is nothing more than an infringement on our Second Amendment today. But tomorrow it is the move to get rid of the Second Amendment altogether. And I don't know how else we can be more clear. Number two, shall not be infringed. And when you look at what's in this bill, there's absolutely things that need to be addressed, like mental health and school security and safety. But then there's things in there like enhanced background checks. What the hell is enhanced background? I think that's code for government speak of we're going to delay a background check on you so you can never exercise your Second Amendment right. And let's not forget the national red flag laws that are built into this framework that they have put out, which, as you said, there is no language yet. So I am not optimistic. I think this is just one step in a very carefully worded, politically correct framework that people are going to say does something, but really it doesn't. It just infringes on our Second Amendment constitutional rights while not addressing the root cause of what is driving this violence, and that's evil, sick people with mental health issues, and that is what needs to be addressed.
Congresswoman, you just took me someplace I wasn't planning on going, but I want to go there because what you brought up was an important point. I want the country to focus in on this. If you look at the Uvalde shooting, you look at Parkland, you look at the massacre from Dylan Roof and that black church, you look at the Sutherland Springs massacre in that church, all of those were failures of government. The FBI should never have given Dylan Roof a gun, but it was government that failed. Who paid the price? Oh, Americans paid with their lives, but you didn't see the FBI forking over money. It would be our money anyway. I know the Air Force settled with Sutherland Springs because the Air Force should have called in this guy, this kook who should never have been allowed to buy a firearm because they didn't report it to the NICS system. So it was the Air Force's fault again. Government falls down and we pay with our lives. And I've always said, Congresswoman, the next time government fails, and I guarantee you government's going to fail again, we Americans had better be able to protect our families, ourselves, and our communities from these whack jobs. Why doesn't Mitt Romney and why doesn't John Cornyn get that very simple principle?
Well, I think that's what happens when you have swamp creatures, right? Their goal is to keep themselves in power. You do that by making people dependent on government so that they can maintain control. And this is government, I should say, big government's plan on every single issue. Get more government. That's all they want to do is grow the size of government and the reach and the tentacles it has into our lives. You mentioned the NICS system. In the House package that unfortunately passed last week that we fought tooth and nail, and I was an absolute hell no on, I wanted so badly to put forward the 21st century NICS fix because that would have allowed databases to talk to each other so that crazy people who have no business getting firearms could actually be identified. But instead, Nancy Pelosi, chasing a political agenda rather than an actual productive outcome, she said, no, we're not going to accept any sort of common sense fixes. Instead, she just wants to outright infringe on every single American's right to bear arms. Keep in mind, this is the same party that wants to defund police. And then they say, no, you don't want to call 911 because they're not worth it. Government will protect you. They don't want you to have firearms to protect yourself. But crack pipes. So I guess instead of calling 911, just call a crackhead. That must be government's answer.
Good grief. Good grief. Well, we got massive illegal immigration coming across the border. No hearings on that. We've got gas prices. They hit another record, $5 a gallon over the weekend. Inflation is at a 40-year high, harming every American. No hearings on that. But, of course, the January 6th Commission is doing its job. The only people that are pleased about the state of America are our enemies. At this point, even MSNBS is thanking God or whatever they believe in over there that Biden's Build Back Broke boondoggle didn't pass. What will the GOP do to reverse course if voters put them in the majority come November?
Listen, I don't think it's a matter of if, it's just when and how big. I think that the GOP will overwhelmingly take the House and the Senate this November. And we have to. You look at just a year ago in July, inflation was 1.7%. Fast forward to today, we're looking at 8.6, and that's by the Democrats' standard of measuring inflation. We see the Fed taking some hyper aggressive stances, which is crashing the Dow, the S&P, everything's down. And it's true. Anything that's woke goes broke and it turns to crap. I was going to use a different word, but I cleaned it up for you, Chris. I'm saying that we need to get government out of the way. And the way we do that is take back the House and then put a pause on all this crazy government spending. That is what big government does. They throw money at a problem instead of trying to fix it. They don't want to get out of the way because then they feel like they lose control. We've got more of an administrative state running things than we have an actual government that is elected by the people. That is a problem. So getting regulations out of the way, passing legislation that is going to restart our domestic energy production, that's going to help get our gas prices down instead of going and begging from tyrants like from Venezuela and Iran for our fuel. Getting the Keystone XL pipeline back up and running, but more importantly, bringing certainty to the marketplace, because the volatility is what is really causing the problem for our producers. And then that trickles down into every aspect of our economy, from agriculture into logistics, manufacturing, you name it. We have got to bring some certainty into the marketplace. But this $5,200 that every single American is paying, it's an inflation tax. That is what every single one of us will pay because of the disastrous Joe Biden policies and the policies of Pelosi and Schumer. That is why we have got to get them out. We've got to take the House and the Senate back. And then if Joe Biden doesn't want to sign any of the legislation, then that's on him. Maybe we can set a record for the lowest polling numbers in American history for a president. He's well on his way, so maybe we'll help him get there.